Thanks, Sandy, and hello and welcome to everyone on behalf of the Western Parkland City Authority. It's wonderful to have you all here today. So I'm going to kick off though, and before we open up to the floor, so I encourage you to start thinking of those good questions. I'm going to kick off with some of the basics, and the first one really is to Harley. What do we see and how do we define advanced manufacturing when it comes to the AMRF and Western Sydney?
Thanks, Sarah, and good morning, everyone. It's great to see everyone here. Look, I mean, advanced manufacturing and manufacturing in general, is a term that's thrown around a lot at the moment, and that's, fantastic that it's, getting the priority that we all know that it deserves. When we think about advanced manufacturing, I mean, it's a sort of catch-all term, but it relates to the technologies and the skills, really that underpin, advanced processes and products. And what it allows you to do is to develop maybe cheaper products, maybe more advanced products that enter you into new markets. Maybe it's just a greater level of efficiency or a reduction in cost for your business. So there's a whole range of different capabilities that sit within that broad term of advanced manufacturing. But what it really means is it can drive change and economic growth for your business.
And I think that last point's incredibly important. Why is advanced manufacturing so critical to our vision and our objectives for Western Sydney?
I think this goes back to a point that the Minister was making earlier, which is that, Western Sydney really is, the heartland of manufacturing in New South Wales, and indeed you could probably say Australia, that there are over 75,000 employees in manufacturing in Western Sydney, which is an enormous base and, something that we really want to celebrate and help to leverage. The second point here, though, is also what the Minister was talking about, which is that there are so many skilled and talented people in Western Sydney, but they're often having to travel outside to the east or to other areas to find those high-skilled jobs, those high-paying jobs. And really, we should be creating those jobs in Western Sydney for them. And we think that advanced manufacturing can be the catalyst for both of those things. So by enabling businesses to explore new ways of working, by finding new opportunities, entering new markets, creating economic opportunities, we will create those jobs, the high-skilled, high-paying jobs of the future, right here in Western Sydney.
So again, building on that, what role does the AMRF play, or could it play, in supporting those businesses?
Yeah, absolutely. There are three key ways that we think we can support industry and manufacturing businesses. The first one is really around assisting businesses to solve challenges they've got with their industrial production, whatever area that might be. The second area is more around how we get both researchers and businesses to accelerate the commercialisation or the scaling up of new products and processes, new technologies that are coming online. How can we do that faster, and how can we make sure we're doing that right here in New South Wales? And then the final point kind of goes to the broader vision here around not just the AMRF but Bradfield, and indeed what we can achieve in the Western Parkland City, and that's around ecosystem. If we have that concentration and that density of businesses that are doing advanced manufacturing, of the research institutions that are already doing world-class work, if we can bring all of those together, bring the players into the right place, it will create amazing opportunities, not just for those businesses, but for the community as a whole.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And if we drill down to Bradfield City Centre, so in the order of 115 hectares of land, about 2.5 minutes on the metro from our new airport. And if we put that sort of scale into perspective and we look out to Barangaroo here, it's about 5 times the land area of Barangaroo, and it will be eventually well over 2.5 times the amount of floor space of Barangaroo. So an enormous quantum of potential development within that area. One of the first buildings that we are developing is the AMRF, and I'm really keen to understand from your point of view why that's so important and how is it different to anything else in Australia?
Good question, Sarah. I mean, it is
Thanks,
different.
Harley.
It is different to everything else that's going on in Australia, and as again I think was alluded to earlier, this is not a brand new model globally. We could look to the UK and the high value manufacturing catapult network that they have there for a similar style of model, but certainly in the Australian context, this is definitely the first time we've ever done anything like this. In a nutshell, what we're talking about here is having the advanced cutting edge equipment with the advanced manufacturing, process engineering expertise, and the right business and academic partners all together under the one roof. And this facility is really, it's not intended to be a closed shop. It's intended to be open access and really with flexible arrangements. We're looking to be agile and driven by industry needs rather than any kind of ulterior motives. And what we're trying to do here is make sure that when we're providing these services, it's done so in a way that meets the needs of the future industry as well as current industry. So we're trying to balance those two factors together. How do we support what's going on right now, and how do we also look to the future and drive those future technologies into our businesses?
So I suspect there'll be a number of questions in that space, but if I also start with some of the starting points, we're going to be commencing construction, all going well, with our first building this year, and it is going to have a pilot facility around the AMRF before the full AMRF gets underway. Can you tell us a little bit about the first building and the types of services and technology that it'll provide?
Absolutely. And here's a slide I prepared earlier. So let's talk about first building. I mean, this is where the journey begins. Starting from late next year, 2023, we're looking to open the doors. This facility is going to be around about 3,500 square metres. We're going to have 1,000 square metres of manufacturing workshop floor. And we're going to fill that with a range of exciting technologies, which we'll talk about right now. And really what it's intended to do is provide that kind of end-to-end service. So we're talking about everything from design optimization through things like process automation, embedding digital and data flows, all the way through to quality control. Now, there are 5 main technical focus areas, if you like, that we're looking to focus on in the first building. The first one is additive, looking mainly at metal additive. So we'll have a laser powder bed fusion platform with 2 machines, one large scale with a big build volume for industrial applications, and one smaller one for sort of faster and prototype work. And I think that's an important point just to rest on for a second, is that unlike maybe some of the other facilities and the equipment that's already out there, I think what's complementary and different about what we're doing is that rather than being at that smaller scale, we really are trying to have equipment in this facility that is the sort of equipment that you could put in a factory on your production shop floor, and it would fit right in with the line. So we really are trying to create that factory-like environment. The second area that we're focusing on is subtractive manufacturing. So subtractive, we're looking at having the 5-axis CNC machining centre, as well as a mill turn. And we're looking to support hybrid additive technologies on both of those platforms, as well as in-process measurement of systems. The third category we're looking at is composites. So composites, we're looking at the full suite all the way from pre-processing and part forming through filament winding, curing, pressing, all the way through to finishing at the end. So there'll be a large suite of equipment because we think this is a really exciting area. And there are a lot of firms already in Western Sydney who are using these types of technologies, but we think that we can push the boundaries and help sort of make some step changes and get to the next level. The next category after that is automated. And automated really, unlike those other 3, we think it sits sort of as a broad base support that covers a whole lot of different areas. And so we really think that there are going to be some exciting uses and use cases within the industry that we haven't even thought of yet. Essentially what we're going to have is 2 modularised reconfigurable units. They're going to be capable of performing a whole range of different automated tasks, again, with that sort of broad base of use in mind. We're going to support simulation of sort of pre-planning and path phasing, as well as optimization, and then looking through into process integration and data transfer between control systems and business systems. The final category to cover very quickly is just digital. I know we're on a clock here. I want to try and get these all out here. So digital, again, everyone always talks about the importance of digital, Internet 4.0. What does that really mean for us? So we're talking here about process design. How can we get product lifecycle management systems coupled with production planning, working with simulation systems through virtual reality solutions, then also into manufacturing execution systems, and then finally into that data acquisition and visualization systems.
Well done.
I'm going to grab a glass of water.
So I talk about simulations. I feel like I'm in the first building already with this projector on us at the moment. But absolutely, the first building is an incredible opportunity for not only advanced manufacturing, but certainly for members of our community to come in and experience it, to learn about it, and to witness and experience a city for the first time being built in real time. So you would have seen a little platform up the top of the building. That's the CEO's pick, so we can take people up there, have a look at a real city being built in real time as metros, AMRFs, the full buildings and so forth are built. So that's pretty extraordinary. So that was a little summary of the first building. Now that you've drawn breath and had a glass of water, can you tell us a little bit about the second building? And the second building being constructed and operational by 2026, the same time as our metro is operational and the same time as our airport all comes online. So tell us, where's this $260 million going, Harley?
Yeah, where is it all going? I mean, that's right. Everything's going to come together in 2026, and this is such an exciting announcement, and we're so excited by the opportunities this presents. This is obviously on a completely different scale to the first building we were just talking about. The full-scale facility is going to be 15,000 square metres, so it's a much, much larger size, and it has a much larger ambition and sort of ambition for the impact that it's going to make in New South Wales and indeed in Australia. It's going to have a range of high-grade clean rooms, class 10,000, class 1,000. It'll have also a large manufacturing workshop space. And really, rather than focusing on, I guess, what you could call the sort of mechanical manufacturing technologies we were just talking about before with first building, we're looking to pivot this to focus on advanced electronics. Now, advanced electronics, is again a huge area, and electronics is such a key underpinning of so many elements of our everyday lives and of our industries. And it's one that traditionally Australia hasn't had a particularly deep and strong involvement in. There are some very strong sectors we have and some great businesses, but we think we really need to deepen and broaden that. And the way we want to do that is, electronics is a challenging and complex market. We don't just want to jump in the deep end, spend a couple of billion trying to compete with Intel or TSMC in building, a fabrication facility. What we want to do is make a targeted and smart investment here, looking at advanced packaging of semiconductors. So that's the step after you've got the chip. And it's really an interesting step that the advanced packaging market is expanding rapidly at the moment, because it really does provide you with some really exciting functionality improvements without needing to spend the billions of dollars to build a new fab line at a 5 or 6 nanometer size. So what this will allow us to do essentially in areas like radio frequency, optoelectronics and photonics is build bespoke devices using more or less standard off-the-shelf chips that meet a whole range of different uses. So they could be vibration hardened for use in the tip of a jet. That could be used for vacuum hardening to be appropriate for use in space. So we're looking at all sorts of uses, whether it be communications, whether it be in med tech, whether it be in defence and aerospace. There are a vast range of areas that we're looking to get into, and we think that this is a beautiful complement really with first building, because it's one of the rare facilities where you can combine the electrical and the mechanical systems together into a single unit and try that out at scale. So we think that that's going to be really exciting.
So just like the first building had a call for interest in tenancies, this second building, the full AMRF, will have opportunities as well in time for those who are interested in being located within Bradfield, but also different models about how the equipment can be shared, because I think a really critical component of it is about supporting and enabling existing businesses and new businesses coming to the Parkland city. So we'll come back to that in a moment. But first things first, I want to just draw down a little bit on the Minister's comments around new industries and your comments. Certainly everyone gets pretty excited about semiconductors, but also noting within your title is technology and research. So in light of all of that, how do these buildings support research outcomes, support new industries? How does it support businesses both within Western Sydney but also internationally?
So research is a key component, and we've touched on it a bit, but I think now's a great opportunity to kind of expand what that means here. I mean, there are long-standing relationships between industry and our fantastic research institutions here in New South Wales, but I think what we're really talking about here is trying to deepen those connections. And we think by creating that ecosystem that we were talking about earlier, by building these strong relationships, both in the physical, geography and the location in Bradfield, but also in sort of the networks that we build and these sorts of events, is an opportunity to deepen and strengthen those connections and really be able to help industry get connected with the latest in terms of research and help the researchers get connected with industry partners who can help drive their work towards commercial outcomes.
But to that effect, it's not just a building, is it? There are team members that will be in the building supporting businesses, connecting the dots from a research point of view. Tell us a bit about that and why that is different to just building a building and how important it is.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in many respects, the building and the equipment is the second order show. The real show here is the team that will be running the facility. So when I mentioned before process engineers and advanced manufacturing specialists, we want to obtain the best and most talented people that we can find to help build a real ecosystem of knowledge, both connections into industry and into research, and also into the international markets, because there's a lot of information out there. There are a lot of people who have that, and we'd like to gather as much of that together and use that as a resource to share it with industry and research more broadly. And just the last thing I'd say is that, traditionally in Australia we do very well with, sort of fundamental research and academic production, but I don't think we do particularly well in terms of commercialisation. We lose a lot of things overseas, and we really see these buildings as an opportunity, and the networks and the collaboration framework that we want to build around it as a way to drive more commercialisation within Australia. If I just give you, some really exciting examples, quantum technologies and neuromorphic systems, which sound almost science fiction to some, they are coming down the pipeline. I won't put a precise date on it, but let's call it 5 to 10 years. Things are going to start coming out of the university labs and start entering into production phase or into the commercialisation phase. We have world-class universities here doing absolute cutting-edge work. The worst thing we could do would be to lose all of that overseas to America or Europe again, like we often do. What if we could capture some of that and provide an on-ramp for commercialisation right here in Western Sydney? And I think that's part of the goal.
I think that's a really important point about the universities as well, and this incredible relationship and partnership that we have with the universities, and indeed soon to be all universities in New South Wales, and the great interest that they have here in Bradfield and the facilities that we're providing. But another one of our major partners is the CSIRO, which the Minister mentioned. At the same time as building the full AMRF, we'll be building a building for the CSIRO. What's the benefit of having these two buildings and these two facilities and in the incredible people within them side by side?
Well, it gets to that question of hub and critical mass. I mean, it's such an amazing opportunity for us to have the CSIRO located right next door to the first building, and then the full-scale AMRF. It will really create a very tight-knit neighbourhood in terms of physical location that will breed a lot of new opportunities. And already, we work, as you know, very closely with CSIRO. We engage with them on a regular basis, talking about technology pathways, ways in which we can collaborate within the facility, ways in which we can share facilities in the future, and share expertise across it. So it's another key component, I think, in building this innovation ecosystem out at Bradfield that will, drive the changes we're looking to make in industry as well as in research.
Now, as promised or threatened, we're going to open up to the floor in a minute with some more detailed questions. But I do want to also draw down on a number of our really critical business partners that we have, many of which are in the room here today, many of which who are already working with us to deliver on our micro-credential education program, and we're very thankful for that, and Sam from GE Additive kicking off with the first one on additive manufacturing. And these are short courses that the New South Wales Government is funding in response to the needs of businesses. And so the NETM new education and training model is a model. Rather than hearing from education providers what they think businesses need, we're asking businesses what skill shortages or gaps they have, and we're designing courses with them to support them. So you might like to ask us a bit more about that today. But really coming back to that important role, I think I've just gone off.
I think you've gone off.
Yeah, I'll just speak a little bit louder. Coming back to, I won't scream now, we're back on. Bear with me. Really coming back to that important question around, who are the customers here? Who gets to benefit from this? How, as government, are we providing open access to this? Is it just for these incredible international firms and universities that we're working with, or is it across the board? It's a leading question here.
It is a leading question, but it's a really important one. And I think in the design of this facility and the way it's going to operate, that's one of the key principles really underpinning it is designed to be flexible and open access. So it needs to work for the big end of town, for the multinationals, to help them with some of their projects. Again, it's a useful way to help de-risk and explore new operations without taking time out of your own production facilities. But it needs to work at the other end of the spectrum as well. If it's a small startup that's looking to commercialise its technology and wants to take that next step and scale it up, it needs to be appropriate for them. If it's a small, medium enterprise business with long-standing heritage processes, they're looking to maybe improve productivity or reduce costs or find a new way of doing particular tasks, it needs to work for them as well. So the way that the whole operation is being designed is to be able to accommodate and meet the needs of all of those different groups.
That's terrific. And I think just now coming back to this sort of concept of a 22nd century city, Bradfield, I mean, certainly as a city maker, it's the first time I've ever seen an advanced manufacturing centre, right at the heart of a new city, and just the incredible quality of the environment that we're creating. So very, very environmentally sustainable, indeed cutting edge energy and different approaches to buildings. Zero carbon is our absolute intention, which will create all sorts of incredible opportunities and challenges, but also a location where you will want to bring your business and a location where you'll have a mix of services and a mix of recreation and facilities and a range of housing opportunities as well. So really practicing what we preach in creating a great environment, not just a building and not just the technology, no matter how important they are. All right, now you're all here for a day. I'm sure you've got many burning questions about this. So I'm going to open to the floor now and ask you to put your hand up if you've got a question. Could you share with us who you are, where you're from, just so people can contextualise the question? Gentleman down here, hello.
Good morning, thank you, Sarah and Harley. My name is Peter Buckley, I'm the General Manager of the Sydney and Engineering Innovation. So we're 20 minutes away from this facility and really excited to be close enough to really feel the build process. We're already involved in a NEPM in terms of the micro prevention, but we've got 130 employees, 30 CNCs, a large workforce and workshop. How do we connect and build those connections and collaborate with the new facility next year?
Great question, Peter. Over to you, Harley.
Thanks, Peter. Yeah, no, absolutely, and it's fantastic. We've been having some conversations, over the past year or 18 months with you and your team, and I think, it's about finding those really good opportunities. You say, 30 CNC machines and a really big team of machinists. How do we find the opportunities to optimise things? Maybe it's bringing data and digitalisation into some more of the processes that you're doing, making that data stream richer, being able to do more things with it, whether it's building, that sort of digital twin, building out the industrial Internet of Things around those machines, or maybe it's, how can we add in, say, hybrid additive into those capabilities to allow you to enter into new markets and provide even more value on your products. I think, it's really a question of where do you want to go and how do we position ourselves in a way that supports businesses like yours, because I see CNC and machining in general as an absolute core capability for us. It's such a key one for the businesses of Western Sydney. We want to have a really rich team of capabilities and experience and skills to be able to support, the next step, whether it is into a new area, whether it's just improving productivity of the current systems, or whether it is, taking the next step into a big international supply chain around aerospace or defence or something like that.
Solid answer. Next question. Who's got another question? Sam.
Yeah, hi everyone. Sam Moresh-Humley, General Electric here in Australia. And my question, I can imagine as this facility is built, there will be a conga line of people, many probably in this room, that will be there ready to access the facilities. But how about the SMEs who are kind of not quite there, who may not even realise the opportunity that facilities presents? What's the engagement
Yeah, brilliant question. Thank you, Harley.
Thanks, Sam. Yeah, look, it's a really good question, and it's a key part. Again, I was talking before about how we're planning the operations to be able to support a broad range, but it's also equally key in the engagement strategy and the way we go about this. So one of the key things that we're doing is, events like today, the team is trying to get out there as much as possible to speak to as many people as possible. What we need to kind of demonstrate is that advanced manufacturing, I think sometimes seems like a big scary concept, or oh, it's aerospace and defence, it's the big primes, it's not for me. I think one of the things we want to show by talking to people, by demonstrating the kinds of projects we can work on, is that it doesn't have to be that at all. It certainly can be that, but it doesn't absolutely need to be that. In fact, if you have the ability to add digital sensors into a machine that's 50 years old, you might be able to realise 30% improvement on your productivity without changing the machine and with a little bit of know-how and skill up. So maybe that's a 3-week project with us in the AMRF, and it delivers you a 30% gain in productivity or a 30% efficiency change. So it's building these sort of little examples with businesses of how you can do small-scale changes to the way you operate, whether it's around the skills and knowledge of the team, whether it's around the way you're using your technology, or whether it's adding a piece of new technology to your process, and doing that in an environment that really is de-risked. You don't have to put any large capital investment up front, you don't have to buy any kit. We'll also help you, move up that sort of that curve of knowledge and experience by sort of interjecting with our knowledgeable team. So it really is trying to demonstrate to businesses that we can work on all those different levels.
All right, more questions? Yes, the gentleman down the front here.
Thanks, Alan Lippman from Roma Engineering. Harley, did I hear you correctly say that in the first stage of the building you're going to be putting in 2 3D printers? One is a smaller scale powder bed and some other larger technology?
That's correct. So you're absolutely right. 2 laser powder bed fusion machines. So there'll be a small scale one. So we're thinking, it's a faster machine. It can help with initial builds, prototypes, that sort of thing. And then 1 larger machine. And we're actually in a procurement process for it at the moment. So I won't say too much other than to say that it's intended to be production scale. It's the sort of thing that will be useful for industry that's already experienced with these sorts of 3D printing technologies, but also we want to be able to use it to bring others up the curve as well.
Sure. That leads me to my follow-on question, if you don't mind, and that is, we have a similar setup at Roma where we've got a big scale machine and a small scale machine, and I think what you're doing, I'm hoping that you'll be buying a lot more machines, because there will be a huge roadblock on those machines depending on the metals you want to run, depending on the parts that you're going to build, and all of that. It's very easy to put a part on it, and it takes 10 days to build, and therefore everybody else is blocked out from that machine. If you're running stainless steel versus aluminiums, if you're running titanium versus Inconels, I mean, all of those factors come in, and I see this potentially as being a significant roadblock to getting into the process quickly. We have exactly the same problems where we are now, and it can take weeks to schedule work onto a machine because you're running 4 jobs in 316, and then you've got to take it out, and you've got to run your 6 jobs in titanium, you've got to take it out, you've got to
And change it all over, yeah.
So hopefully you've got a plan to do that.
Look, it is a challenge, and it is one of the challenges that we face in the facility. Is we're trying to provide a broad base of capabilities, and that means we're working across a range of different technology areas. And within the space that we have in this pilot first building facility, we only have room for the 1 large machine. But what I would say is that's the whole reason why the full scale facility, the 15,000 square metre building, is coming online in 2026. So what we want to do is work with industry in this first building, work out where the demand really is, what's getting used a lot, where do people really want to be, and we will build out those capabilities in the full scale in the new workshop space to make sure that we have the capacity to meet the demand that's coming in from our customers. So it is going to be an issue potentially, and something that we're going to have to work through, but we're looking to kind of resolve that within a kind of 4-year time horizon.
And thanks, Alan. And it's businesses such as yours that are based in our Parkland city that we want to listen and learn to with that great experience. So thank you, and please keep it coming. Great relationship that we have with your business. Other questions? Yes, gentleman here.
G'day, I'm Rowan from UNSW. Some businesses like Primes or SMEs can have a stake in the building itself or be on site, because inevitably these pilot programs don't go for days, or they go for weeks or months. Are they going to be on site? And if so, how are you going to stop them sort of taking over the machines long term and still give time for the SMEs to use the machines?
Yeah, great questions. And look, in short, we have a whole city centre to build, so we're hoping that many of them will come on site. But how we're managing the building and ensuring that equity of access, I'll hand over to Harley rather than being a CEO and jumping in. Over to you, Harley.
No worries. Well, coming up with all the good thorny questions. Scheduling is another one. And look, there are kind of two sides to this. We would love to have the primes, the universities, and our small and medium businesses all flowing through the facility. That's part of building that ecosystem. So we want to encourage people to be there, and we think that will result in some really great outcomes. At the same time, as you say, we need to balance that with the need to be able to provide access to a range of users on the equipment. So scheduling is one that we're looking at the moment. I think the answer is that we expect that a lot of the projects that are going on in there, at least in the first instance, while we're building out the facilities capabilities, are probably going to be in the order of between 1 and 4 or 5 months. We think that that's really at the outer edge of what's probably going to happen in the very early stages. So we expect that there may be some delays and lead times in being able to access some machines, and as Alan was saying, particularly on machines where sometimes the builds take a while and it does take quite a long time to change over, there will be some challenges around that. But with careful scheduling, we feel like we should be able to fit most people in. If there are larger scale projects that come online, again, 2026 is when we're looking to have a much, much larger facility where we'll be able to accommodate multiple customers using the same technology platforms at the same time.
All right, I've got time for one more. Look, you both won the race, so why don't we, 2 quick ones from the gentleman here. Maybe if you give yours, and then if you could give your question, and then we'll hand back to Harley. Oh, you're both very generous. You go.
I'm from Camden Council. I'm Yapa Bandar. My role is Senior Office Economic Growth, so a lot of work is really on that area. We have this high population growth, around 6% a year in Camden. And my question is, not the question, but my thinking is that we get a lot of high school leavers or graduating from high school. There's a ready workforce and with little bit of training skill up. And what's that type of connection that can be made or be made?
Great question.
To get these people, young people, to get the interest in advanced manufacturing, and how do they contribute to this facility?
Well, that's a great question. So we might just put that one there, and we'll come back. And would you like to ask your question?
Okay, my name is Ching Wang from UNSW. You mentioned, in addition to the 3D printers, some composite manufacturing facilities. Are you able to share the planning and the procurement status?
All right, so 2 very different questions at the end of the spectrum. So one's around procurement, and that'll be an easy one for you to answer. Another one about more broadly, how do we raise awareness? How do we support the transition of our brilliant students in the Parkland city through to advanced manufacturing sectors and this growing and booming industry that needs more and more brilliant young people coming through?
If I start there with that question, I think that's one of the main things. This facility in and of itself is not huge, so is not going to accommodate hundreds and hundreds of workers. But I think the main role that it actually plays here is in making people aware of the opportunities of advanced manufacturing. I think one of the things for school leavers and when the team goes and does events and talks to students about this sort of thing, manufacturing often doesn't seem like a very exciting area to get into. It doesn't feel like it's the future. It feels like it's the past. And absolutely, this facility in the heart of Bradfield is designed to change that perception. Say, actually, it's not the past. It is the future. And we're going to have a glass-walled, amazing facility where we're going to be able to bring students through and show them the amazing stuff that we're producing, whether it be 3D printing in titanium powder or whether it be composites and digital visualizations. So really, that's the key driver here. We do want to have strong relationships with TAFE and with the universities, and we do go out and we talk to schools, and we'd love to bring people through individually. But I think given the nature and the size of this, the real advantages will come from changing the perceptions of people as to what manufacturing is.
And I think whilst the first building will be a very visual building, it's important to say that we're also building one of the most cyber secure and you know, absolutely a very secure location from a national security point of view. So there will obviously be other areas that'll be a little bit less open to school kids too.
That's right.
So we're making sure everyone gets a prize here. Just on procurement before we wrap up, we're out at market at the moment with a pretty sizable round of packages. Very dedicated to getting the right equipment, listening to businesses and what their needs are. Anything further than that other than go to the New South Wales Buy portal if you're interested?
Yeah, so there's a whole range of packages. There's a suite of 7 pieces that we're looking to procure on composites. And look, I'll put my hand up and say that composites is definitely not my area. But what I will tell you is that you know, we're looking at some of the things we've been talking to industry and finding out, you know, where are the areas where they want to get into. One of the main ones, for instance, that came out recently was, you know, we thought the idea of a big composite press was probably not really where industry wanted to go. We thought we were going to move away from that and stick with the oven. And it turned out actually that, you know, the press was really what people were looking for. They thought that a large scale press, you know, obviously there are some smaller ones in research labs which are fantastic, but we want to be able to scale that up to a larger size. So that's one of the pieces that we're now going to pick up. And I think, you know, from the perspective of universities, we really see this as complementary and want to make sure we're working with you. We have a close relationship with SOMAC, the new CRC that's just been set up. And we really see, you know, this is an opportunity for us to assist in the scale up, to do additional work that can't be done in the lab, to help businesses kind of take that next step once they've done the work at the prototype or the kind of low TRL levels, and we can help push them through MRLs 5 and 6 and get them up to a stage where they're then ready to produce in their own facilities.
So I'm conscious we've got a number of very polite people standing at the back that I, in a moment, want to ask to come and sit up right in the front row for us today. But just to round out, really important to say we've got over 40 partners now at the authority working with us across the city. The door is definitely not closed. There's a very open invitation on our website for more partners and for more people to get involved. How do they do that, Harley? Who do they talk to? How do we all connect the dots?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are a couple of different ways you can do it. If you see in the brochures that you've all got in your pack, there's an email address there if you want to drop us a line, and we'd love to catch up and have a conversation about how we could work together. We'll also all be here today, so you can talk to myself or Sarah or other members of the WPCA team, and we can have a conversation like that as well. And there's also a regular newsletter that comes out from WPCA, so if you're interested in hearing the latest as to what's going on, you can also sign up to that, and you'll find that by going to the WPCA website, and that'll keep you up to date with all the latest.
Well done. All right, well that's it from us. Thanks everyone, and we'll bring the group up from the front and I'll hand back to Sandy. But a very warm welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much.